your title?
Bob Jordan, Chief Executive of Threshold. Well, the cause of the crisis ultimately is a lack of supply. We had we had an oversupply of accommodation in all the wrong places. That's part of our property crash. In places like Dublin, we actually didn't have a massive oversupply. Maybe there was a 10% oversupply that was quickly gobbled up over time because the construction sector essentially collapsed. Now we're in the somewhat ironic position of having gone through a property bubble, of having very little accommodation in the places that we need it. And obviously the problem is that it takes time for housing. You can't just turn on the tap and housing appears. It takes 2 to 3 years. And we've only recently come out of a bailout program, so we're really playing catch up. So the most important thing is the supply of new housing. But supply by itself is not enough. It needs to be affordable supply. It needs to be the right kind of accommodation for our population, and it needs to be in the right location. Well, I think the main issue has been that the construction sector has been decimated. A lot of those people have gone out of business or gone to other countries. There is a huge issue around the equity gap. In other words, the amount of money that developers can borrow and the amount of money that they need to build housing. And I suppose the other issue is that there's still a lot of housing out there that is cheaper to buy than it is to build. Properties being released by NAMA onto the market, properties that are going in fire sales. So the construction sector is having to compete with that. So ultimately, we do need the government and local authorities to step in and stimulate the supply of housing.
And how would they do that?
Well, I think the most important thing is they, put their housing sections back in place. That they look at a new model of social housing, because one of the reasons that local authorities got out of the business of social housing long before the property crash was they couldn't make their sums add up. The amount of rents that people were paying were so low that they didn't even cover the management costs. I think we need to have a cost rental model. In other words, a model where rents are based on the cost of producing the housing. And obviously, the more housing you produce over time, the more you can spread the benefits of rents around. So I think the model we had in the past just didn't work.